Have you ever stopped in the middle of the day for no apparent reason and felt a weight you couldn't explain, a restlessness that wasn't anxiety, a sadness that wasn't depression, a sense that something greater than yourself was moving, and you, in the middle of it all, trying to understand what was happening? If you've ever felt that, pay close attention to what I'm about to say, because what you felt was not weakness. What you felt was a signal. There is a type of person who is born different. Not different in the way the world defines it. Different because they carry inside them a layer of perception that most people simply don't have. This person cries at moments others find trivial. They feel another person's pain as if it were their own. They walk into a room and already sense what's wrong before anyone opens their mouth. They love with a depth that frightens. They pray with an intensity that exhausts. And they carry a silence within them that no one around them can see. I am speaking to you, chosen one, directly to you. The Bible does not romanticize the calling. It does not present God's chosen ones as people who woke up one day, received a crown, and walked forward without difficulty. It wasn't that way for Jeremiah, who said that the word of God was like fire in his bones, yet he wanted to be silent because the calling was too heavy to bear. It wasn't that way for Moses, who fled for 40 years before accepting what God had placed upon him since before his birth. It wasn't that way for David, anointed while still young, but who had to pass through caves, persecution, and betrayal before sitting on the throne that was promised to him. In none of these cases was the calling an immediate celebration. It was a silent, solitary, and almost always misunderstood process. When God places a genuine spiritual gift upon a life, that gift does not arrive wrapped in visible glory. It arrives wrapped in sensitivity, and that sensitivity is the first sign that something has been deposited in you that goes far beyond the natural. You feel more because you were formed to perceive more. You carry more because you were built with an inner structure that most people have not even begun to develop. You cannot be shallow because your spirit was made for depth. But here is the problem that almost no chosen person resolves on their own. The world was not prepared to receive that level of sensitivity with respect. The world calls it exaggeration. Family calls it drama. Friends call it weakness. And the person who carries that gift, after years of hearing this, begins to believe the lie. They begin to hide what they feel. They begin to swallow the weight of the calling alone, convinced that something is wrong with them, when in reality, something very right was placed inside them by a God who does not choose by accident. God does not distribute spiritual sensitivity to those who will never need it. Every trait of the way you feel, perceive, love, and suffer was intentional. You are not too sensitive by accident. You are sensitive because what God is building inside you requires that level of perception. And a chosen person needs a heart that feels deeply, because it is with that heart that they will touch, restore, and transform lives that no other instrument could ever reach. The spiritual gift is born in silence. But between the calling and the fulfillment, there is a territory that few people have the courage to describe honestly, where the chosen heart faces battles that never show up in Sunday service, that don't yet have a beautiful testimony, and that no one around them can understand. And it is about that territory that I need to speak to you now. There is a pain that the chosen one carries that has no easy name. It is not ordinary sadness. It is not a crisis of faith. It is a spiritual weight that settles in the chest at moments that should feel normal. In the middle of work, at the dinner table, in the early hours of the morning when everyone else is asleep and you are awake without knowing why. It is an internal struggle that doesn't show on your face, that has no finished testimony yet, and that most of the time you don't even try to explain because you already know no one around you will understand. And the hardest part is not the pain itself. The hardest part is carrying that pain while still needing to function, while still needing to smile, respond well, serve, pray for others, be strong, when deep inside something is being pressed, stretched, and shaped in a way that genuinely hurts. Jesus Christ did not ignore that weight. He named it. In the Garden of Gethsemane, the Son of God fell to the ground and said that his soul was overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. That was not weakness. That was the real weight of a process that demanded everything. And if Jesus himself went through a night of silent anguish before the greatest victory in history, Who are you to believe that your process should be painless? The chosen one's silent suffering is not a sign that God has forgotten. It is a sign that God is working at a depth the human eye cannot yet reach. The greatest transformations do not happen in the celebration service. They happen in the closed room, in the prayer no one witnessed, in the tears you held back in the bathroom before walking out and pressing on. It is there, in that hidden place, that character is formed. It is there that faith stops being a speech and becomes a real structure inside you. But there is a danger on this path that must be stated clearly. When the process is long and the silence is heavy, the chosen one begins to interpret the pain the wrong way. They begin to think they are being punished. They begin to question whether the calling was real, whether God is still present, whether it was worth saying yes. And it is precisely at that point of vulnerability that the enemy works with the greatest precision, not with loud persecution, but with quiet doubt, with the whisper that you are alone, that no one sees you, that perhaps everything is nothing more than an illusion. You need to recognize that moment, because the doubt that comes in the middle of the process is not revelation, it is distraction. The suffering you are carrying is not proof that God has given up on you. It is proof that God is taking your calling too seriously to let you pass through the process without being truly transformed by it. Silence can be the most sacred place you have ever inhabited if you learn not to run from it. If you learn to stay still long enough to hear what God is saying in what seems like emptiness, because God speaks in the silence. He spoke to Elijah not in the strong wind, not in the earthquake, not in the fire, but in a still, small voice that could only be heard by someone who had stopped running. And the chosen one who learns to remain in the silence without falling apart is about to discover something that will change everything, because there is a gift inside you that needs discernment to be exercised with power. And it is about that gift that I need to warn you now. There is a mistake that the chosen one makes with alarming frequency. And this mistake is not born out of wickedness, not out of rebellion, not out of a lack of faith. It is born precisely out of the excess of sensitivity that God deposited in that life. The mistake is this: carrying what was never given to you to carry, absorbing another person's pain as if it were your own, taking on spiritual burdens that don't have your name on them, and doing all of this thinking it is love, thinking it is service, thinking it is the calling in operation, when in reality it is the calling being destroyed from the inside. You were made to feel deeply, but feeling deeply is not the same as losing yourself in what you feel. There is an enormous difference between having genuine compassion and dissolving into another person's pain to the point where you can no longer identify yourself. There is a difference between interceding for someone and carrying on your shoulders what only God can resolve. And the chosen one who never learns that difference will, over time, begin to fall ill. They will begin to feel drained without understanding why. They will begin to lose the spiritual clarity that was once so sharp. They will begin to confuse the voice of God with the weight of the situations around them. This is not emotional weakness. It is a lack of spiritual discernment. And discernment is not a luxury for the gifted. It is an urgent necessity. The Bible is clear when it says that each person will carry their own burden, not the neighbor's burden, not the burden of the entire family, not the accumulated weight of every person who brought you their problem and walked away lighter while you were left bent over by what they left behind. God called you to be an instrument, not a deposit. He called you to be a channel, not a sealed container that collects everything that passes through it without direction or limit. And here is the warning I need to give you with full seriousness. The enemy knows your gift better than you think. He knows that you feel everything. He knows that you cannot ignore the pain around you. And he uses exactly that against you. He places people in front of you who will drain your spiritual energy, confuse your perception, and keep you so busy carrying what is not yours that you will have no strength left to fulfill what truly is. Not every weight you feel was placed there by God. Some burdens arrived because you did not close the door, because you did not use the discernment that God has already made available to you. Discernment is what protects what God is forming in you. It is the shield that separates what is calling from what is distraction. It is what allows you to serve with power without emptying yourself on what has no purpose. And developing that discernment requires something that the chosen one often avoids: learning to say no. Learning to recognize the boundaries that God Himself established, learning to guard what is sacred without feeling guilty for it, because what God is building inside you is too valuable to be wasted on battles that are not yours. The process you are living has a destination. The sensitivity you carry has a function. And the sooner you understand that protecting your calling is also obedience, the faster you will stop suffering over what does not have your name on it and start advancing with everything that does, because what lies ahead requires you to be whole. And it is about what lies ahead that I need to speak to you now. The Apostle Paul wrote some of the most powerful words in the history of the Christian faith, words that to this day move hearts, restore lives, and sustain chosen ones in the middle of the most difficult process. But Paul did not write those words from a lit stage. He wrote them from inside a prison, with his feet in chains, his body marked by lashes, and a journey that included shipwreck, rejection, betrayal, and repeated suffering. And it was exactly that man in those conditions who said with a conviction that no circumstance could break, "I can do all things through Him who strengthens me." That was not cheap optimism. That was the declaration of someone who had learned inside the hardest process that the pressure was not destroying the calling. It was revealing the calling. It was stripping from Paul's life everything that was superficial, everything that was too human, everything that depended on favorable conditions to function, and leaving only what was unshakable, only what God had placed there from the very beginning. And that is what is happening to you right now. The silent suffering you have carried, the battles no one witnessed, the nights you stood alone holding on to a faith that seemed to have nothing to lean on, none of that was in vain. Every layer of pressure that passed over your life was doing something that no celebration could ever accomplish. It was forming spiritual authority. It was building inside you a depth that is only born when the process is real, when the pain is genuine, and when in spite of it all, you made the decision not to give up. Spiritual authority cannot be bought. It cannot be inherited. It cannot be imitated. It is formed, and it is formed in exactly the territory you have walked through. In the silence, in the struggle, in the weight you carried without fully understanding it, yet kept moving forward anyway. That carries eternal value. That carries a weight in the kingdom of God that no human title can reproduce. But I need to tell you something that goes beyond comfort. Faithfulness in the process is not passivity. It is not standing still, waiting for everything to resolve itself. Faithfulness is continuing to do what God placed in your hands, even when the result has not yet appeared. It is continuing to pray when the heavens seem closed. It is continuing to serve when no one is applauding. It is continuing to be who you are with the gift you carry, even on the days when that gift feels more like a burden than a grace. Because the calling always outlasts the process. Always. Not because the process is weak, but because the God who began a good work in you is faithful enough to complete it, and He will not waste everything that was invested in your formation. Every tear, every night of silence, every moment you chose to remain when everything inside you wanted to run, all of it is being counted. All of it is being used. You were chosen before you understood what that meant. You were marked before you had the spiritual vocabulary to describe what you were feeling. And everything you have lived through until now, including what hurt, including what still hurts, is part of a construction that is greater than you can see right now. The gift you carry was not given to remain hidden in silence forever. It was refined in silence so that one day it would operate with a power that will surprise even you. So do not give up in the middle of the process. Do not trade the calling for the comfort of a life that will never fulfill you. Remain. Because the chosen one who stays faithful to the end discovers that the suffering they carried in silence was, in reality, the price of an authority that very few people in this world will ever have the courage to pay. And you paid it. Now it is time to rise. If this content touched something inside you, if at any moment you felt like you were hearing exactly what you needed to hear today, then I need you to do one thing right now. Leave a like on this video. It is not a small gesture. It is you saying that this kind of content matters, that this message needs to reach more chosen ones out there who are silently carrying the same weight you have carried. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, this is the moment, because this is the place where your spiritual life will be treated with the seriousness it deserves. No superficiality, no cheap messages, no false comfort, only the truth that the chosen one needs to hear in order to rise and fulfill what God has planned. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, stand firm.